Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Blood Red channel. I'm once again joined by David Hughes after what feels like an extended period off.
Yeah.
You was in America, wasn't you?
Yeah, I was in LA, had a great time, stayed in the Hoxton. It was a fantastic hotel for anybody going over there. Definitely do book it. I'm not paid to say that, but you know, commission. Yeah, hashtag ad. Yeah. But no, joking aside, I had a really good time over there. Good break, and now first day back at it, hence the delayed pod.
Yeah, we are recording on the Thursday. The last episode that went up was last Tuesday, so we've had a few goings on in between. So we're going to have to balance things in terms of what we analyse in the hour. First, we're going to talk about Genk. It does feel like it was a long time ago, but we haven't really addressed it, so we're going to touch upon that. We're going to touch upon yesterday's cricket match. If you can, I don't even think you can call it a football match for me. So we'll have a brief word about that, and we'll also talk about obviously Spurs, the win over Spurs, and look ahead to Villa. So we'll start with the furthest away match. Briefly touch upon it. Genk. I think it was an insight into maybe the future of Liverpool's midfield eventually. But I will say that I think yesterday in the match with Arsenal we sort of an insight into why it's not.
Yeah. I feel like if yesterday's game hadn't happened, this segment would have been a little bit different, wouldn't it? But yeah, it did, and we'll probably come on to that in a bit. So yeah.
But I thought obviously we played Naby Keita in midfield, we played Oxlade-Chamberlain in midfield together for the first time. And we played Milner as our right back, and I thought it was interesting just to see how our attacking dynamic altered, because obviously from a basic perspective you're still employing a 4-3-3, so the common perception would be you're still attacking in the same way, but if you haven't got the same players you're really not. So we played Milner, and I wrote a piece on this as well. We played Milner as our right back, but Milner just fulfilled the role differently to Alexander-Arnold. He stayed deeper. And then we played Chamberlain, obviously, as the right side of the midfielder, who played in a more advanced manner to how Henderson usually would. And I think Naby Keita did play similarly to Wijnaldum usually does. I think it was maybe a bit more offensive. But I just thought it was interesting just how the formation stayed the same, but how players just introduced their own takes on a right back role, a midfield role, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I suppose Chamberlain had the license to roam a bit higher up than say what Henderson would, because obviously Milner was doing that covering.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, Trent wouldn't normally be.
Yeah, you'll always need players who some are attacking and some are covering. Basically, some are inclined to be involved with the ball, and some are inclined to think about what happens when the ball's lost. And I think usually Trent is an attacking phase player, and you've got maybe Henderson who's a bit more inclined to think on the defensive side. Yeah. But I think those switched for this match, and I think it made sense. I think that those are the little subtle tweaks that I like to see.
Did you think that impacted the actual performance?
Yeah, I think it impacted the narrative certainly, which we'll address anyway. But obviously it allowed Oxlade-Chamberlain to score 2 goals, both from outside the box, and you know, just a word on the second goal in particular was
ludicrous, mate.
It was a goal that you don't usually see.
No.
You usually see a player stab the ball like that. It was like he'd, as I said, stabbed it really into the back of the net from outside the area.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was having a look, and each of his previous 5 goals now have been from outside the box.
Yeah, well, we are going to get onto that because he did the same yesterday in the basketball game. Naby Keita, 110 passes, which was 25 more than any other player on the pitch. He just controlled the tempo for me, but in a bit more of a forward thinking, riskier way than Wijnaldum usually does.
Yeah, we've touched on it before. Do you remember you were talking about Trent, wasn't it? And we were saying about how some players may have a lower pass success rate, but that's because they're a lot braver. And I think that's definitely Keita, isn't he? He's a lot more attack minded, then he'll try more penetrative balls, then say, well, now Wijnaldum, who's got a really high pass success rate, but very rarely contributes in terms of creating goals.
Yeah. I mean, the last time Wijnaldum completed over 100 passes in a match.
It's catching on here, mate.
100 passes in a match for Wijnaldum was, I think it was January, and it was against either Crystal Palace or Leicester. I can't remember who it was. But the large majority of those will be backwards and sideways. And I think what Naby brought was he just mixed it up a bit. He passed into the box plenty. He completed more progressive passes. 10 more progressive passes than any other midfielder. And a progressive pass is, loosely defined as a pass that moves the ball considerably forward. So he just brings that. You don't always need it, and sometimes you don't always want it, really, especially if you've got such offensive fullbacks. But
if you're like forcing the issue, you mean? So
yeah. But obviously with Trent out, I just think it was just really interesting for me to see how our dynamic altered in the same formation, but just with different profiles. Obviously, you interpret a role based on your own skill set.
Yeah.
But the problem was, because of the offensive midfield, there was a perception that we were defensively weak.
Yeah.
There was a perception that there was a midfield problem.
So someone I forgot to tell you this actually. Someone messaged me on my work Instagram account, someone that I didn't follow, saying, "What do you think of Liverpool's defence? Looked poor tonight." And I hadn't seen anything at this point, and I was a bit perplexed by it, because I thought, it isn't a poor defence, and it is that narrative that you're probably going to go into in a minute, and we'll talk about in a sec, of kind of moments altering a perception of a team.
I think this is the main reason we have to go back and address Genk, because this is a perception that developed for me, which was a bit of a myth. I thought. I think you're naturally inclined to see those player names in your midfield, see the odd chance that's created, and think it's the midfield's fault. And things like that. Ox, beneath the surface, is a really, really good presser of the ball. One of our most active about. And Naby's the same. Naby's really good presser without the ball. He's not as... What's the word? I've got to say this correctly. He's not as tactically aware as Wijnaldum is, maybe. In terms of positional sense and
so he's a little bit more
like that.
A little bit more gung-ho in terms of running at it, but maybe not creating the correct angles to press.
I just think he's a bit more of a free spirit, if you know what I mean by that. He's
I do actually.
He's inclined to he does require a bit of freedom to impose his own game on the match, otherwise he'd be playing like he's not Naby Keita, really. So yeah, but other than that, I do think that Liverpool were defensively fine, and I think the shots that did materialise for Genk looked like we'd just been split wide open, but a lot of them were offside. But the referees obviously are instructed, not, if they're not certain, don't give the offside, and if a goal is scored, VAR will take it back, look at it, and disallow the goal if needed. No goals came, so the VAR didn't get involved, but it looked like we'd been opened up.
There was almost a false shot count, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was.
I watched all Genk's shots, all of them, even the ones off target, this morning. And do you remember watching Samata 4 minutes in? It's a long ball over the top, and he kind of gets...
vaguely.
So it's a long ball over the top, and he's on the edge of the box, and he takes a shot, and he scuffs it a little bit. Now, I think the narrative behind that would be, Liverpool have got away with it a little bit there. But when you actually watch that, the ball's over the top, he's under immense pressure. He ends up having to take a shot from about 18, basically on the edge of the penalty area, so 18 yards out. Alisson with perfectly positioned, so even if it's on target, it'd have to be unbelievable to beat him. That to me isn't a big chance.
No, of course it's not.
Under pressure, pace, and he scuffed it, and rightfully so.
We face shots like that quite often too. I think if this was a Liverpool 11 all playing as shadows, you would have perceived it as a standard Liverpool type performance. Yes, they created some, but it wasn't that different for me from a typical Liverpool game. It was just, if you've got that seed in your head already, case of Oxlade-Chamberlain in the midfield, you're very quickly inclined to just think, there's a problem, and it's not really true.
Yeah.
So for me, the defensive shouts that it's not a midfield that should be used again or whatever, I didn't entirely agree with that. I thought that was a little bit what's the word?
Wrong.
Yeah.
No, I think there's flawed. A better way to articulate it than that, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, a little bit flawed. So we went on anyway. We'll move on from Genk because I think that they're the key issues tackled. We went on to Spurs, and right away I'm going to defend my initial prediction last week, because I obviously predicted 3-0, right?
I'm pretty sure I predicted 2-1, by the way. I'm just going to mark your card there.
No comment on that. Yeah. But if you actually look at the match, for me, the play materialised exactly how I expected it to. The match went how I expected. It was just, we conceded a goal immediately, 47 seconds in, and that changes things completely. But, I did say that Spurs are going to... I predicted it would go a little bit along the lines of Arsenal at Anfield. I thought Spurs would have to... I thought to be penned in for large periods. I thought would create plenty of chances and things like that. And for me, we did. For me, we had 21 shots compared to 10 from Spurs. Our XG was around in the region of 2.4, which is solid, compared to Tottenham's, which is in the region of around 1 either side. And we had 13 shots on target, which I had a little look. That's the most we've had on target in a single match since Crystal Palace, August 2017. So the match did go roughly how I expected it to. It was just the scorelines got immediately affected after 47 seconds, so it couldn't materialise into that 3-0 match that I initially thought it might have.
Yeah.
But I don't know about yourself. I don't know whether you thought it was a bit more competitive than...
No. I mean, I only joked at the start there. Yeah, I think it did really pan out how we discussed it, to be honest. And it just so happened Liverpool weren't finishing. And I think again, no, and we've talked about this a couple of times with Liverpool, because the way games have panned out, the narrative of how the game was won again impacts it. People calling Liverpool lucky again, but as you've just touched on there, they were fairly dominant, but the manner of the victory has come via a penalty, same way it did against Leicester. There was the Sheffield United one where it comes via an error, but again, Liverpool were dominant on the day. I think that often impacts people's opinions on how a game actually pans out. But if you do look into the numbers, it was another dominant victory against the side who finished third last season, Spurs.
Third or fourth, yeah. It
might have been Chelsea who got third, but it's top four side anyway. See, a team that should have been really pushing Liverpool this season, and again, it was an easy victory.
Yeah, no, it was a deserved win for me.
Deserved win, I should say. Yeah,
I think it's difficult to analyse strictly what Tottenham's plan was, because of how plans can be impacted by the game state at the time. Obviously, if you take the lead after 1 minute of football, that might impact how you play. That might impact the tactical plan and things like that. So, it remains to be seen if Liverpool hadn't conceded,
how the game would have
panned out, what the scores would have actually been, whether Spurs would have been a bit more competitive, able to get out their own half a bit more.
Because they were deep, weren't they, Spurs?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were. I mean, they tried to hold up until kind of a mid block sort of thing, but they got pushed back into just a low block basically. It wasn't as, what's the word, as reactive as Arsenal, as passive as Arsenal was at Anfield. That was next level. But
they seemed to press quite well, didn't they, in their own half? I thought when Liverpool were going in there, but at the same time, it's it was pretty much a low block.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning as well for me. Fabinho was outstanding. Fabinho was
again.
Insane, yeah. In matches like that where you're penning a team in, he's just flawless. I wrote a piece on him this week again, and it was just it was a piece entirely focused on how he impacts us in the final third, because he just without the ball, you know, if we're taking risks in the final third and they're getting headed clear by, I don't know, Alderweireld or someone like that, that loose ball, Fabinho would be on it immediately. He'd pass it to the man next to him and would recirculate again.
I like to think of him as like a vacuum almost for those loose balls that do come out. He just seems to suck everything up in that area. And as you said,
well, did you see Klopp's comparison?
No.
Have you not seen Klopp's comparison when you've just said that?
No, spit down. I haven't. No.
Well, Klopp's called him a Dyson.
There we go.
That's weird.
that was legit. I'm not trying to claim Klopp's words there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an immediate comparison between what you've just said and what Klopp said.
I'm just having a look now at his numbers from the weekend, and he had 24 duels, won 15 of them, and his average for the season is normally 16, and he wins around 8. So his output was basically twice as high in that game.
But if you look at his pass map though, get his pass map up and look at how many the pass maps in the actual piece on the Echo, and you can see how many of those are made right on the edge of the final third.
Yeah,
it's like he positions himself as like the governor of the final third.
Yeah, he's spot on. Yeah,
and he'll just, if any balls come loose to he sweeps them up. If he's given the ball, he'll switch it to Robertson. Then he'll get the ball again, switch it to Trent, and he was just controlling, dictating the final third, allowing us to just create wave after wave after wave of attack.
Yeah, you know what? That's such a good point you make. I'm just looking at it now, and normally for a player in his position, like that number 6 role, you kind of expect it to be more passes on, say, the top end of your own half, don't you really? But yeah, he just seems to be in a position where he's penning them in, like right on the cusp of the attacking third.
Yeah, I mean, he's technically labelled as a DM, a defensive midfielder, whatever you want to call it. That's usually the deepest lying midfielder position, just ahead of the defence. As I said, he's really high up the field there.
Have you tweeted this out, or was this on the article?
That's in the article.
I'd like people to see it if they have a chance. What piece was it?
It's pinned. It's my pinned tweet at Distance Covered on Twitter. The top piece is on Fabinho, and it's just on the impact of his game, specifically related to Liverpool's final third control.
In some sides, right, that would be a number 10's pass map.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it would.
It's crazy. Yeah,
it is. It was a superb performance, really complete. I think he's been a superb signing, and just as I said, just the way he's constantly switching the play from side to side. Because if you're the defence, that's the trickiest. Well, it's not the trickiest, but you don't want to do that, really, do you?
You don't
want
to have to.
Yeah, you don't want spaces open up, gaps open up that you can exploit. And he even provided an assist. He assisted Henderson's goal. Henderson's goal, the equaliser, is Fabinho picking the ball up in this little final third central role, and just a little diagonal pass towards the far right. And obviously Jordan Henderson does a goal.
Yeah.
Jordan Henderson scored him for, I think he averages about 1 Premier goal a year every season. So
he's got one in the early doors. Yeah, you don't know, he might double up.
And another player that I think we have to mention is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Again, his passing network, I posted it on Twitter before, again at Distance Covered. If you want to check it, I've just posted it. His passing network is insane. For a right back, I'm pretty sure he's 20 years old as well. I think he's creating his own role, I think, for me, because I've not really seen a right back like this that's as... He's the closest thing Klopp's had to a playmaker at Liverpool. Klopp generally doesn't do the whole playmaker thing, but what Trent is doing at the minute for us, I mean, if you look at his passing network, it's basically a Pirlo-esque passing network, but from the right.
Right, yeah.
He's not in the centre. He's doing everything from the right. He's switching the play constantly to the far side, playing key passes in behind. Every type of pass is there, and it's really alternative. It's really different to what you see.
It's also very clever though, isn't it? Because we know that if you're doing that in central midfield, and maybe come on to that, I'll ask you, because people seem to ask us quite a lot, don't they? If they think he could play in midfield.
I've just been asked that today, actually.
Yeah. I remember you saying, yeah. So come on to that in a sec. But I think what's so clever about it is he manages to be, one, he's talented to be able to do it, but also because of the system, you know, if chances are if you lose the ball in the middle, there's a good chance you can then be hit on a counter attack, isn't it? If you try one of these more penetrative balls and don't come off. But you know, from right back, there's less risk, isn't it? It's exactly. Something that, you know, Klopp knows, and that's why they build so much through those wide areas. And it's just really, and not just is he a great ball player, but he's a great ball carrier as well, isn't he? He's a great, well, him and Robinson, to be fair, and they both got the best non-shot XG for ball progressions and carries in the Liverpool side, which isn't really a surprise when you think how they play. But yeah, it's just crazy.
If you look at his passing network, though, he's basically doing what he wants. He's got an absolute free reign from that right back position, which plenty of players in our team, well, not plenty, but the likes of Wijnaldum, for example, our centre mids in particular, haven't. They have to play a certain way, I think, to keep things assured, if you like. Trent is doing what he wants from a right back position, and I think, as I said, it's not something I've seen before. The way he's interpreting the right back role, I've not seen it before. Players come to mind, such as Marcelo, obviously from the opposite side. Dani Alves, I've seen him compared with, but they were different.
Yeah.
For a start, they were dribbling types. They were a lot more mobile in terms of being quicker. I think they did more in the final third and things like that. Whereas Trent just seems to be an all round.
What about
playmaker from the right back?
Lahm.
Yeah, possibly Philip Lahm. Yeah, Kimmich is another one that you could possibly compare him with. But
okay, could he do it in midfield?
I think it's tricky. As a six, you mean, or as a
I don't know. No one really specifies. Just the question is, could he do it in midfield? I don't know if people are thinking more like from an 8 position, to be honest, but because I don't know. I suppose maybe a 6, because that's kind of the passing pivot place, so to speak. But I don't know. It's a different game.
One tactical, idea, I suppose you could say, is, say for example, we signed a player like Wan-Bissaka, right, and we was playing a team such as Crystal Palace, right. You could have the option potentially, if you had maybe a more experimental manager in charge, maybe like a Rodgers or someone like that,
with less pressure as well, by the way. Cause you could afford to lose a game. I think
against a team like Crystal Palace, you could test potentially playing a Wan-Bissaka type as right back to deal with Zaha, while playing Trent as the right side at 8, and let him do what De Bruyne does, just drift into the areas that he ends up in anyway for Liverpool, and leave the defending to a Joe Gomez type who's going to be able to defend more, and let Trent do the same thing as he's doing anyway from that inside right position, let him whip the ball in and things like that, but just give him that defensive cover. So I don't think the whole midfield thing is out the question. I don't think I'd like a permanent switch there, and I'm not sure he's even got the physical demand on a Liverpool midfielder is relentless. You have to run and run and run. And Trent can't do that, but I think he's not that industrious type, is he, Trent?
I also, my 2 pence on it is, I don't see why Liverpool would be so keen to make that switch. Like, we're seeing now, it works perfectly how it is. And it is a very, as you've touched on, very unique. Like, can't think of any. We've sat there for a minute. We can't think of any other examples of players who are really doing it in Europe anywhere.
No.
And yet, so why would you be so keen to potentially change the team dynamic just to bring him into midfield? Maybe as the side evolves, it could happen. But I'd have to agree. I think if it was going to happen, maybe the 8 is best than the De Bruyne type thing. But I just
think for me, the stuff I've picked up on what makes him such a threat is he can switch to play better than any fullback in the game at the minute for me. And the whip he's able to get on crosses from those De Bruyne type areas, inside right,
like the half spaces type.
They're really, really dangerous. Obviously, if you're playing in the central area, central midfield, those switches of play happen a bit less because you're not already on the sides, and
you've got other tasks to do as well, haven't you? To be fair, when you're in that position,
and you're in fewer positions to hit those whipped crosses into the box. So straight away, two of Trent's real unique tendencies that he brings to the team are almost cancelled out as a central midfielder. But as I said, just in certain matches, maybe when, because of the offensive player up against him at right back or whatever, maybe it would be worth just a test, just to see, okay, play Joe Gomez right back and play Trent as in the Henderson role, but instruct Trent to just do what he usually does, basically, without the full track and back thing. Because obviously against the likes of Crystal Palace, you will dominate the ball.
Yeah.
You can't afford... He's not a luxury player, but you can afford a bit of, you know what I mean, a bit of room to maneuver.
Yeah, totally.
So it would be an interesting little ploy to test, like we used Shaqiri last season against low block teams just to break them down. But in bigger games, we obviously didn't. As a permanent shift, though, for me, no. But just in certain situations, just as a means of getting him on the ball more or something.
It's just interesting because how many times we talked about Liverpool trying ways that they might need to amend to break down these sides, so that could be an option.
Yeah, he's just a player that, if you want to create chances and if you're struggling to do so, if you can find a way of getting them on the ball, do it. And I think at Old Trafford, our way of doing that was obviously to switch to 4-2-3-1, make Henderson occupy Ashley Young, and that gives Trent the space. But as I said, just an alternative way would be put a defensive right back in, put Trent as the right-sided midfielder, and instruct him to keep drifting over to the right side and keep putting in those crosses and stuff like that. And it would be an interesting thing to try, but you'd have to do it in the right game, ideally at Anfield. You know, no elaborate, stupid tests in bad environments or anything like that. Just...
where they can afford to go wrong, really.
Yeah, where if it did go wrong, we shouldn't really be punished for it.
Yeah.
But overall, it's not. I think he's on his way to being a world class, potentially the best ever Premier League right back.
Well, this is the beauty of it, isn't it? He's still just 20. You know, he could still do what he's doing now for 5 years and still just be 25, and then you can look about evolving his game if needs be. It feels like he's been around for a long time. For me, anyway, I feel like
he's scarily good
for that age.
2 Champions League finals, won one of them already.
Madness, mate.
Lost once in the Premier League last season. We haven't lost this year yet. What he's doing for his age, it's unbelievable. Like, so final point to touch on Spurs. Was it a penalty? I've
only seen really I mean, one angle of it, to be honest. So I'm gonna go with you and say yeah, it is. Just because every other time we've had these contentious penalties, I've said no, so I'll say yeah. But
I do think he buys it.
Yeah. Well, here's a question I wanted to ask you. Is it now becoming a bit of an art for these top players to buy penalties? For example, like Mane or someone. And I'm not accusing anyone of diving. I don't even want to get onto a diving subject.
No, yeah,
I want to point blank make it clear that no one's diving. Not saying that, but a few times last night, I saw, I think, Brewster and maybe Chamberlain have someone come into the back of them in the box, or there was a loose swing of a foot. I think Kolasinac tries to clear the ball, and Chamberlain nips in first, so he swings and hits Chamberlain. Now, for me, if he goes down off that, that's a penalty.
Yeah.
All day. And he doesn't see plays on. And I was like, thinking to myself, you know, is it now tactically shrewd to go down in those areas to win penalties? And is it no longer to be frowned upon? Is it almost an ability within a player? And I think the likes of Mane and Salah, they do it.
No,
and they win a lot of points by doing it.
Yeah. No, I think gaining fouls is definitely
an art.
A skill, yeah. But the best I've seen, well, one of the best I've seen at doing it is Eden Hazard.
Yeah.
so frustrating to play against because you will think you've got him and he'll just back into you, go over. Referee has to give a foul because it is a foul. But there's been nothing really there that's even happened. But it is a foul. And it's the same with the Mane penalty. It's just one of those situations where he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that he's not really going to do anything at all with the ball, but he's got there ahead of the man. The opposing man's committed to a decision, but Mane's in between the ball, so it is a foul. And I do think there's an art to it. I
thought the Leicester one was really soft, personally. But, by the letter of the law, that is... Like, I don't think it was enough for him to go down, right? But I also think, it's a penalty. And I think we're in the same situation with the one against Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, we played, didn't we? Last week, Echo FC. We had the game, didn't we? And in a couple of pressure moments, our team captain, we won't say his name, but he did take a few fouls to just relieve the pressure. If you can win these fouls in certain situations to gain an edge, to gain a win, to relieve pressure, whatever it may be, it is a skill. And
I'm glad we didn't name him, to be honest, because he'd be living off that, wouldn't he?
He probably would, yeah. But it is a skill, though, and the best players are really good at doing it. And for me, it was a penalty. For me, it was a certain penalty, so we'll move on to... Should we call it a football match?
Yeah, just about.
To the Arsenal game. We're not going to talk about it for too long, but absolute full Carabao.
Yeah, madness,
full Carabao Cup. You was there, wasn't you?
Yeah, that's my first ever 5-all game. Which I said to you, actually, now I think about it, that's pretty obvious. I can't think of many off the top of my head anyway. But it was a wild night. It was a wild night. It
was just a stupid, crazy game that epitomised that competition for me. It was just a mad fun play the B team competition match, wasn't it? I think one thing I want to touch upon though is, okay, we got the win, penalty win and all this, but I don't know if it was just my timeline at the time, but there was some criticism towards particularly Sepp Vandenberg and a few of the kids. And I just think we need to put into perspective. Obviously, a lot of people out there will just have their heads screwed on anyway, and they'll naturally do this. But so many people were quick to criticise a kid who's got so much development ahead of him. As a 17-year-old, the amount of development you've got to go through, still physical and largely mental at that age. It's got loads. It's ridiculous. So to even have any sort of criticism, and not even criticism, but if you're going to start stating definitives on his game, whether he's going to make it or not, daft.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I said to you, didn't I? Literally, we wasn't even speaking about him in the last pod, but I just dropped him in because I'd watched him the day before for the 23s, and although I'd seen clips of him, it was the first time I watched him in the flesh. I said to you, I was really impressed with him. I watched him a lot, even when the play wasn't near him, just keeping an eye on him. And he had an aura similar to Van Dijk's in the sense that he was just so composed, and he never looked flustered, cool as you like. But even in that game, he had 2 errors. But I said, didn't I? It was nothing to worry about. He's 17.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's probably going to have these in his game for a few more years until he kind of matures. And it was just a great experience for him to play last night. Okay, I said to you, I don't think he had the best game at all. But it was a big step against a good side, an Arsenal side.
Put it into perspective though. He's playing for Liverpool senior team for the first time.
Yeah.
On television at Anfield in front of a full crowd, defending on the halfway line.
Yeah.
That's the crucial thing. He's defending on the halfway line against lads who are lightning quick and are playing on the break because they're technically the weaker team who are away from home. That's so tricky for him to be put into that scenario and cope and come out without any major errors. That's fine.
Well, that's another thing then. I was thinking, as I said, I don't think he had a great game, but I can't think of many moments where I was like, oh, that was terrible.
No, I can't.
The 5 goals that were conceded, 4 of them were defensive errors that the goalkeeper probably should have done better for 2 of them. Elliott's give one away, and I can't remember what the other one was, but there were mistakes, but none were really by him, in my opinion anyway. Thought that even the first goal, okay, people saying he should have done a little bit better. It was just a good attack and play, good feet in the box, laid off to Ozil, but I can't remember him particularly making any huge error in the game.
But even to judge a player though like that, based on not just his performance on the day, but you've also got to consider he's in a B team.
Yeah.
They don't play together.
Yeah.
So already, despite being weaker than the likes of Van Dijk, you're also in a weaker system. You've also got weaker foundations and stuff like that. So, like I'm saying that because I saw people compare it to we were linked with selling Lovren in the summer, and we didn't let him go. But if we did let him go, Sepp might have been the fourth choice. And I saw people saying, there's no way this lad's good enough to be fourth choice. But if you put him in Liverpool's usual 10, and he's the 11th man next to Van Dijk, with Robertson next to him, Alisson behind him, Fabinho ahead of him, Henderson to the right of him, he's going to look a lot better, trust me. He's going to look a lot more assured. He's going to have to cope with less vulnerability around him, greater support. Well, it's just unreasonable to judge a 17-year-old kid in his first game based on that. It's not a fair environment for him to be judged on.
I can't add nothing to that, to be honest. We've talked about Gomez a couple of times on the show now, that he's kind of fighting for form himself, so he's not going to be the guy pulling him through, really. I'm sure he was as good as he could be in terms of communication stuff, but
for me, those matches should just be perceived as almost free hits, whereby if a player plays really well, take notes of his traits, take notes of what he's good at, get a little bit excited about him. But if he plays bad, that has to be accepted.
Yeah. And
I think Liverpool, especially Liverpool fans, were really been very lucky in terms of we've been able to sign players over the years that are ready made, all ready to just step into the first 11 and perform at a very high level. We obviously don't see Salah in his maturing years, Mane in his maturing years. We saw Van Dijk for the first time at Anfield at age like 27 or something, 26. And I think, some people are inclined to talk about Liverpool scouting and just big club scouting in general, and they point to players like Van Dijk and maybe Harry Maguire and say, why didn't we sign them 7 years ago? Why aren't we picking up on these players 7 years ago? Whereas Southampton are picking up on them when they're that age. Let Southampton do it. We'll have probably been aware of them, but if we sign them at that age, we have to experience then their inefficiencies and their flaws.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine with letting Southampton experience all those flaws before paying a bit more for the finished article.
Basically, let them develop the player, and then you can then buy the finished article.
Yeah,
and when you've got the financial ability to do so, like I think where Liverpool are,
it's the food chain thing.
Yeah,
Liverpool should rightfully be at the top of the food chain. And the moment we start thinking that we should be signing, well, within reason,
no, it's a balance, isn't it? Let's be honest, because you still want to pick these players up, but
we've potentially signed Vandenberg ahead of the curve and saved ourselves a lot of money in the long term. But we've just got to appreciate that right now he's going to make mistakes. He's not going to look like a world beater. That's normally 17. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Oxlade-Chamberlain, another goal from outside the box, which you just mentioned before. And I think it's an interesting note to make because last season in particular, it seems to be a dynamic Liverpool have lost since Coutinho's sale. Yeah, last season, for example, Liverpool scored 6 Premier League goals from outside the box. The league average 7.4, and City, for example, scored 16. That's including free kicks, but still, it's still a threat that Liverpool obviously lack. That ideally, from a squad building perspective, you just want every kind of tool, don't you? You want every means of scoring, and Ox seems to have that threat in his game.
Definitely, yeah. It's you don't want to become reliant on shots from distance, as we know, because they've got low chances of leading to a goal. But, you know, that Manchester City basically won a title off a shot from distance last season.
Yeah.
All right, it was a one-off in Vincent Kompany, but you want to have that in your locker because even, you know, the goals they scored against City in that Champions League game, you know, they basically turned the tie in Liverpool's favour very quickly, didn't they?
Yeah,
two shots from distance.
Yeah.
So...
No, it's an interesting little trait that he's got, and it's going to add a different dynamic to Liverpool's attack, because obviously we don't seem to have that type of play. We've got strength from free kicks, but shooting from distance, it's as you say, it's not something you generally want to do.
Yeah.
But if it's a skill that a player's got,
yeah,
it's fine to say to him, you clearly are good at this. You can try it more than Henderson can. You can try it more than Wijnaldum can.
Especially Liverpool's midfield, because, you know, although we're fans of it, we have been critical, and it lacks any real attacking ability, doesn't it? Josh now being knocked out by his mic there.
He needs to fix these mics.
Yeah, definitely. We'll
feed
feeding this back to Guy. I'm sure he'll be listening soon.
I'm going to get slide tackled somewhere. Go on, carry on.
Yeah, so you know, that midfield lacks goals on the whole, doesn't it? And, you know, this is just a little something extra. And it also gives the defence more to think about. If they know a player like Chamberlain picks the ball up, you know, in the attacking third, they know they've got to close him down, otherwise he's capable of shooting. If they close him down, that then creates spaces in and around to play through. So it's definitely worth having someone who can hit shots like he's doing. Yeah,
no, definitely. So we'll get away from that match anyway, thankfully. Crazy. And we'll move on to our next opponent, Aston Villa. I wrote about them today, I think it was.
You can carry us here, mate.
Yesterday it was actually. Villa after 10 matches. And they do seem to be alright. They seem to be doing better than I thought they would do before the season. Because I picked up on, they'd made lots of signings. Some of them initially I was like, okay, these are fine. They're not doing a Fulham. And then gradually he seems to do a Fulham. Yeah, like he seems to just start signing mad players who you've never heard of. And
I also thought, because we write about them a lot, don't we? And last season, I remember looking at them as we were heading into the playoff run and doing previews on that. And I just didn't think they looked that great at anything, really. And well played, mate. Josh just fixed his mic. That's probably the first time either of us have ever managed to fix it midway through the show.
Don't jinx it.
I don't think they looked that great, and I was a bit concerned for them. They seemed to be heavily reliant on a lot of loan players, didn't they, last season?
I was just going to say, they finished the season without a squad, really.
Yeah, so which is where the heavy investment maybe comes into.
Their main man, Sam Abraham, which is obviously when we picked up on him to be a really good talent that big clubs should be picking up on. I think he scored something like 25 of their league goals, so they had to somehow replace that. They haven't strictly replaced the goals, but on the attacking side, they do look decent.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, when I was looking at them, the general takes that I got from them was just they're a bit of an old school English team. Lots of randomness, lots of variance in the game, quite end to end, that sort of thing. They've scored 15 goals so far, conceded 16, and their possession is about 46.8%. And I use that as the kind of punchline for this is Villa, because it's very 50-50, if you know what I mean. They've conceded roughly as many as they've scored, and the possession says 50-50, and that's what their game's like, really.
They're not a team that you want to bet on, are they? Let's be honest.
No. I've avoided them in the old fantasy football thing, and just because, as I said, you can't really predict them too well. They've got a good attack. Their attacks, I'd say top 10 at the minute in terms of the numbers that they're posting, at least. But they've got a bad defence. Very bad defence. Their XG currently is the 6th best in the league. That's better than Spurs, better than Arsenal, better than Leicester, and, sorry mate, but better than Everton.
It's not hard, is it?
And the reason their XG is so decent is because they shoot an awful lot. That obviously under Dean Smith, he showed up as quite an attacking coach anyway while he was at Brentford. Obviously a very data-driven club anyway.
Yeah.
And And they obviously, as I said, they shoot an awful lot. Of his 133 so far, which is the 5th most in the league, and that's behind the top 4. Is it already? That's the top 4.
I'd
isn't
say
it?
the best 4 sides in the country at the moment. Yeah,
they're behind City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Leicester for shots taken. So that's obviously decent. I mean, a lot of them are from outside the box. I think they're second in the league for shots from outside the box. Players like John McGinn obviously involved with that, and they place plenty of emphasis on crossing as well as a means of attacking, which generally isn't great. No. Obviously, it's quite unreliable, really, as a means of attacking, isn't it? Yeah,
it's not always great at converting into goals. But to be fair, I haven't looked at Villa a little bit, and they seem to have half decent wing backs. Gilbert and I think Target, who everyone expected to be a bit of a flop, paid 14 mil. He was like second choice at Southampton, but he's come in and he seems to be doing quite well for them, actually. He seems to be more attack minded than Gilbert, a little bit more better defensively, but
I mean they've hit 200 crosses so far in the season, which is the 4th most.
I think they're the big thing behind that, actually.
Say that again.
I think those two are quite important in terms of the crosses in.
Yeah.
Seems to be them getting up and swinging the ball in.
Yeah, but the fourth in the division for crosses hit, but the 3 teams above them all dominate much more possession. I think those 3 teams are. I think Liverpool are definitely there, Everton are definitely there, possibly City, but that's simply because, as I said, they see much more of the ball. Yeah. They've got many more opportunities to cross. So I think Villa cross per possession more than any other team, I'd guess.
Yeah.
But obviously, they're doing so with Wesley in the box, who's a big lad. Yeah, I think he's same height as Van Dijk. But I'd be surprised if he manages to actually dominate Van Dijk in the air. I mean, when we went to Old Trafford last week, we obviously said, didn't we, with Maguire in the box, you don't want to rely on crossing too much. Villa obviously seems to rely on crossing. They're coming to, we're going to Villa Park, but we've got Van Dijk in our box, so you'd like to think that one of their key means of attacking there is not going to be as useful.
Yeah, it's too easy, isn't it?
I mean, Matip's absent, like, it's worth mentioning that, but Van Dijk's still aerially ridiculous, isn't he?
Yeah, that's it. He seems to command the whole penalty box, really, doesn't he, rather than just his side. So, I think they should try and find alternative means to attack. Yeah,
but that Wesley's an insistent striker, though, because when they signed him in the summer, I had a look at him, and they seem to have identified another physically built striker who can lead the line in the same mould as Abraham.
Yeah.
But without having any of the scoring tendencies that Abraham's got. Abraham's really a poacher.
Yeah.
Really good inside the box, but Wesley showed up to me as a player who's got a bit of Firmino in his game in terms of dropping off, linking others in, getting them involved and things like that. So I've been interested to see how he's coped. He's scored some, but he's also not scored in some games as well. So
I wrote
he's been roughly as expected.
Yeah, last season before he made the move, and it was kind of a piece looking at potential players for a championship club. I don't know why I'm talking like we don't need to mention it. It was Bristol City, and as if it's anything relevant. But yeah, and for me, I just felt like that was his level. So I was surprised that he joined a Premier League club, even if it was a newly promoted side. It seemed like it was the leap might have been too big.
Yeah, he wasn't cheap either.
No, it was like 20 odd million.
Yeah, 22 I think it was. But to be fair to him, he puts himself about, though he's a handful. Does make some good runs. He made a very good run against Everton. The opening goal, that was a great run.
And he good finish as well, to be fair.
Yeah. So he can definitely occupy a back line on his own, single-handedly. But
you know what I will say about him? He seems to be the player that if he's up for it, he can be unplayable. Yeah. I found that night against Everton, it was on Sky, wasn't it? Watched it, and he was having a little back and forth with Everton centre-back, Yerry Mina, and he seemed to thrive and that seemed to give him an extra... I don't know, an extra 10-20%. So
how tall is Mina?
He's about 6 odd.
Is he?
Yeah.
I think he's far beyond that, actually. I think he's about 6'5", isn't he? 6'6", something like that.
Mina or?
Mina, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Wesley's 6'4". know that.
Yeah.
6'4/6'3" Van Dijk height, but
I mean,
I'm
I'll
not sure
check
what
it,
Mina
but
is, but
I'm not sure.
if he's done well against Mina, though,
yeah.
if he's done well against Mina, that'd be interesting.
No, he
because he's
did.
a big lad.
He did. He really 6'4" he is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think that's maybe something you don't really want. It's not that you don't want to annoy him, but you can't just want to keep him quiet. You don't want to give him any little sort of, if he wins a few challenges or a few defensive duels, it could get his tail up and he could be a little bit more difficult to play against. So just keep him quiet and frustrated, I think.
Yeah, that might be tricky considering it's obviously the league leaders at home. Crowds not getting up and things like that.
But I think this is where Liverpool's game management needs to come in. They just need to be, as they've been doing, to be fair, just try and keep it, try and just keep him isolated for as long as they can. You don't really want him to get his tail up, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, we obviously mentioned about Villa being bad on the defensive side. And again, that keeps with the theme of Dean Smith as a boss, I think. I think that's what he seems to be like. They're currently 20th in the league for shots faced. I think they've faced one more shot than Norwich. 170 in total. And as a result of that, they're 19th in the league for XG against. The XG per shot's quite league average, quite normal, I think. Maybe a little bit worse than league average. So they're not facing clear cut chances and like that. But they are. It does seem quite not easy, but because I do remember watching the Everton game and Everton found it. I think Everton had enough to score.
Yeah.
But they found it generally quite difficult to break down, specifically once Villa took the lead as well.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think Mings is generally good.
I was just about to say,
with the whole deep block thing. If he's able to soak pressure, I think Mings really thrives on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the teams they faced, because they have given some shots away. 28 against Tottenham.
Yeah, that was the first game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, Everton 10, West Ham 13, Arsenal 18.
They give away 18 against Arsenal.
Yeah, hold on, they give away 19 against Norwich. Brighton got 20 against them. So they clearly allow chances. But then, it's how quality.
But the thing is, though, if you look at Liverpool's level, Liverpool's quality, because of the gap in standard there, Villa's XG per shot should worsen against a team like Liverpool.
Yeah.
So if you combine the fact that they're facing plenty of shots with the fact that they're about to face Liverpool, whereby Liverpool should be able to create slightly better quality shots than Arsenal or Spurs or whoever you've just mentioned, doesn't bode that well for them.
No.
I do think it'll be trickier than the numbers suggest, though, just because I have seen them at Villa Park. They do get very up for it.
What time's the kick-off?
It's 3 p.m.
Oh, on Saturday?
On a Saturday, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't common for us at all.
No, I think that could play into Liverpool's hands a little bit,
Yeah,
actually.
same, yeah. No television or anything like that.
Yeah, I think if it would have been, say, like the evening kick-off on Saturday or something, then that could have been a potential banana skin.
Yeah, two more things, though. Two players that I want to pick up on just before we round up is I think they've got two really interesting centre mids in Jack Grealish and John McGinn. Obviously, with Wesley not being particularly prolific in his nature, the reliance on goals from elsewhere, and I think McGinn and Grealish do quite a lot on the offensive side. I think you could put them in place of Tielemans and Maddison at Leicester, and they do very similar in terms of they're quite progressive on the ball.
Yeah.
Offensive-minded, reliance on the defensive midfielder behind them to cover for them, things like that. But they're really interesting types, I think, as centre midfielders. Like,
I saw that. I can't remember the source they're from, but I saw that of English midfielders. No, because this has been a big hot topic for England fans. Not sure there's many here. But yeah, there's been talking about a creative midfielder. And Jack Grealish created 25 chances from open play, and the closest to him was Mason Mount with just 16. And talking to Maddison, he was on 13. And that was ahead of last weekend. So it shows. Bear in mind, Villa aren't a great side either. It just shows how creative he is, and he's got like the best numbers in terms of progressive runs in midfield as well.
But that's what I'm going to say then. I must admit, I think Grealish is far beyond Villa's level. I think he's a really, really good player.
Yeah.
I watched him recently against City. They obviously ended up losing, I think it was 3-0. But obviously against a team like City, you're going to get pressed.
Yeah.
You're going to get pressurised in your own half. You got little time on the ball, little space, and you cannot make Grealish, what's the word? Panic. You can't make him panic on the ball. Super composed, really, really confident in his own ability. He can drive you as a team up the field with the ball at his feet. You know, references to your progressive runs that you've just mentioned there. He's just a really good, composed player in possession, uses the ball well, good decision maker. He's physically really built as well.
Yeah,
really strong. He's got calves like Shaqiri, you know. Honestly.
What's calves like my neck?
No, but he's an interesting player. He was linked with Spurs last year, and I could absolutely see the logic in it, but it didn't materialise.
Did you see him staying beyond this summer?
I don't know. He does seem to have his heart there, definitely.
Yeah, he loves the club, doesn't he? But it's not always enough, is it?
And although I am praising him here, he does seem to be quite a unique tactical fit. Coutinho was a little bit like that. Just he didn't really fit a conventional role. He's got to be, and I think he's obviously getting that at Villa because of his level.
Yeah,
he's allowed a bit of freedom and things like that. But he's just an odd central midfield type for a newly promoted side.
Yeah,
and I think McGinn as well. He's another weird centre mid because
can't get me head around McGinn.
No, he's weird because I remember I read a piece on him. I think it was recently, and he does everything except pass.
Yeah,
it's mad.
Yeah,
any situation he can be in, he'll do everything he can to avoid passing his way out of it. He'll dribble his way out of it. He'll use his head, whatever he has to do. It's weird.
Yeah,
I mean, he's complete without having the passing game. It's and Mason Mount's a bit like that. He's a strange type. Obviously, a bit of a goal scorer as well. Shoots from anywhere, industrious, hard working, defensively good. But I just weird, just alternatives to the usual what we see. That's all I'm getting at.
Do you think his ceiling is as high as Grealish's? Because Grealish to me feels like he could go all the way with him again. I know he's been linked with United, hasn't he? But I'm just a bit like. I don't know if he has got that, but I'm asking your opinion on it. I don't know if he has.
I've seen McGinn linked with Leicester. Where Rodgers wanted him while he was at Celtic as well, but I do think he's a good player. I like him, but I'm not sure he's. I seen him linked with United.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at and talking about before. Yeah,
no, if that's just put it into perspective for me. Actually, I think if McGinn was linked to United, as I said, as good as he is. Not for me. But if Grealish was linked to United, I'd see a bit more logic in that. I'd think it was relatively sensible, depending on the price and things.
Well, actually, I agree with that.
So I think we will call it a day there. Predictions. Obviously, after this match as well, I should say we have Genk again, but we're not going to preview them again. We know what to expect from them.
Yeah, if there was going to be a banana skin on that, would have been away, wouldn't it? Then if it's 4-1 win, so
yeah, that should be a relatively comfortable win. So we will address that next week after the match has been played. We'll obviously talk about Villa and Genk, and then whatever's up. In fact, it's City.
Yeah, that's huge.
The big one.
That is huge. That game.
I'll use that now to actually preview a piece that's going up for me on. I think it's Monday. A long read piece, big tactical preview on City.
Nice
for LFC Stories. That's something I've been working on for a while, so check that one out. But we'll address that more next week anyway. Verdict on Villa, what do you think? Scores?
I'm desperate, to not predict a Liverpool win every week. But
that could change next week, to be fair.
Yeah, I'll bank it for then. Although I actually do fancy Liverpool, but we'll save that for next week. So, no, listen, I think what we're finding is, I've said this before, we're finding that teams are finding a way to shut Liverpool out, or making life very difficult for Liverpool because it's Liverpool and they're playing Liverpool. So again, I think it could be tight. I do, but I still think it's going to be a Liverpool win. So I'll go 3-1 with 2 late goals for Liverpool.
I think I am going to go with, despite Villa being quite clearly bad on the defensive side, I do myself think it'll be quite tight too. I've seen a couple of matches this season at Villa Park. I think they have, as a club, plenty of intangibles that you can't really measure, like Liverpool do.
Yeah.
Just the way Liverpool never give up, and the club aspect, and the fans and all that stuff. I think Villa is similar in terms of you can't get a fully accurate read on them based purely on numbers and things. So I think I'm going to go 2-1 again, if Villa are pushing on late, maybe Liverpool get a late one and push it to 3-1. But I do think it would be quite an entertaining game. Quite tight, but 2-1 Liverpool, I think, for me.
We shall see.
So, thanks for joining us, Dave.
Of course, mate. Always good to be here.
We'll be back next week. We'll see if we can get Christian involved with it being a City preview for it's obviously the big game.
He's eager to be fair to him. He is eager to.
He's trying to make time.
Yeah, he's a very, very busy man. But I know everyone's missed him, so we'll try and make some time for him, definitely.
Yeah, if we can get the front three for the for the City game, that'd be great. But anyway, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.
Cheers.